Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case notes for file 1497, written by igrvks, the Finnish boy who became Spiderman. It happened 2 days after I turned 8. I live in Finland, and we just moved into town. Our apartment was in these cheap rental high-rises, 8th floor. My grandma had given me a few comic books as a present, and I had been reading them since the party. Quite a stack, something like 10 to 15 individual comics. There was this one book, a Spiderman comic. It wasn't about the usual Spidey, but something about Peter Parker's clone acting as Crimson Spiderman. At least that's how it was translated into Finnish. I had just returned from school, so my parents were still at work, and I started reading this comic. At some point, the protagonist is crouching on a roof, jumps down and lands into the Spidey crouch position, hands between his legs. Without thinking anything, I just laid down the comic, walked to our balcony and climbed on the fence using a chair as a ladder. As I was sitting there, I saw some man down across the street. He saw me sitting there and started running towards our house. At this same moment, I had this really calm feeling taking over me. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and jumped down. When I jumped, I could hear the man scream, "Hey you malauta!" No, followed by an abbreviation to God help me. Then I just heard wind in my ears. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground crouching like Spider-Man. The man runs around some high bushes just when I stand up. He stops dead in his tracks and all color escapes his face. He just stood there with absolute terror in his eyes, completely silent and looking at me for a few seconds, before backing away slowly without turning his face off before he's back at the corner, where he turns away. I returned to the lower door only to find out I had left my key inside, so I just sat down there and waited for my father to return from work, something like 1 hour. He was naturally surprised to find me there without my backpack. I told him what had happened. "Dad, I'm Spider-Man," when we were in the elevator. Dad thought it was just my imagination. When we returned inside and he saw my comic book laid open on the ground, with the page featuring the jump and the balcony door left open, he took away that particular comic book. He never allowed me on the balcony before I turned 12, and we moved to a better house, 3rd floor. He also becomes disoriented every time I mention this to him, and changes the subject quickly. I still remember this occasionally, clear as day. I became Spider-Man. Case notes for file 1497, the Finnish boy who became Spider-Man. So 8th floor, we're talking at least 80 feet, if not higher? There's absolutely no way a kid or an adult or any human being could fall that far and land on normal ground and not be dead. At least broken bones, broken legs. No, there's no way. If you actually did jump from that height, in some way your body was able to absorb that energy and dissipate it out. Now it is true that kids in general have a certain resilience, but not to this extent. Kids are not Spider-Man to that extent. Now, when I was a kid, I would climb trees all the time and fall out of them all the time. It's just a normal occurrence back then, in the 90s. I guess kids don't really do that anymore. Something is lost in that, I would say. To me, there's no possible explanation for this outside of some sort of glitch. Maybe a guardian angel that somehow reduced your speed as you were falling? Something like that. It seems like your father knew and really believed it, because of the comic book and the window being opened. He knew you jumped, and of course, in his mind, how could that be? So it makes sense that he would be apprehensive. But I'm glad he didn't get angry with you. I think there's better ways to address parenting issues than just anger. Case file number 1498, written by CyberFairy06, the case of the phantom pants. Okay, so this happened a few years ago now, but I still have no logical explanation for what happened. I sold a pair of pants on Depop, black with white pinstripes and a drawstring waist. After shipping the item out, I received a message from a different buyer. Their claim was to have received these pants instead of the item they ordered. I apologized and told the buyer I would sort this out. This buyer had purchased a vest top. I assumed I must have accidentally switched the parcels, so the person who bought the pants would have received the vest top, and vice versa. I was about to message them to ask if they received a top instead, when they left a review. They gave 5 stars and were happy with the pants they received. I was so confused. The pants were a much more expensive item than the top. so they definitely wouldn't pretend they received them to keep the incorrect item. I messaged the first buyer, asking the brand and sizing on the item. It was definitely them. I didn't have anything similar. They both received this item, and the top seemed to essentially disappear. All of this was very strange and gave me a super unsettled feeling. So imagine how I felt, walking into my bedroom and finding the same pair of pants in my room. I did not have more than one of this item. I cannot explain what happened here. I still try to think of a rational explanation, but I'm certain this was a glitch. Case also file 1498. The case of the phantom pants. Well, it's always good to go back to a good classic of quantum duplication. It never fails to titillate the mind, and kinda make you hope that something you love that is important will duplicate for you. Money, $100 bills, Subway sandwiches, that kind of thing. Come on, universe, roll those dice. Case file number 1499, written by nothingbutangst. The plane gone in a blink. It was daytime, around 3 p.m., sunny and clear skies that day. As a frequent passenger, I look out the window and up at the sky very often. And on this day, they were driving and I was scrolling on my phone and occasionally sky watching. Then I noticed a plane. Too small to see the exact airline, but it had a dark blue detailing, so maybe Delta or American? It's flying across the sky as I usually see any other time. Then shifting my eyes to continue looking down at my phone. The way this happened is so fast it's unexplainable. In the very same second I began to shift my eyes from the plane back down to my phone, it literally blinked out of the sky mid-flight. Literally before my eyes fully landed back on my phone. I could still see it in my peripheral vision and saw it just disappear as if I blinked, but I hadn't. I didn't fully register what happened until my friend also got frantic. She almost fully braked the car in the middle of the street. We were in a residential neighborhood area, not on the highway, so we weren't going above 40 miles per hour. To ask me if I'd also just seen that. I didn't know she had also been occasionally watching the plane go by. So I began looking around and the sky was completely clear. I even completely stuck my head out of the window to verify what we had just seen. The plane was seriously nowhere to be found. This was such a quick, simple glitch, like clicking refresh on a web page, the plane just blinked. I don't think I'll ever forget this, it was too wild. I look at the sky way too often to mistake this for a bird or a bug, and having a witness further solidified this. Case also file 1499. The plane gone in a blink. The quack standard strikes again. Multiple witnesses seeing at the same time. No one influenced each other. Just pure bizarreness. Seen as a duo. What you saw must not have been of this universe, because, if it was, a plane disappearance is literally worldwide news. Do you remember the Malaysia Flight 370, I believe it was? It vanished seemingly without a trace. Even the transponder disappeared. Now, was that a glitch in the Matrix? Maybe not. Could have been hijacked, I guess. But if it actually was a glitch, then it is worldwide news for weeks. My guess is, because I haven't heard of a plane disappearing like this in quite a long time, and not since the Malaysia one. Given that, I think this wasn't a plane that was in the universe, or it temporarily was in your vision and your friend's vision, but it wasn't really here. It was just a universal, multiversal transmutation, which is more common, and yeah, not an actual disappearance, because an actual disappearance is, for an entire plane, that's a DOP event that just doesn't happen. Unless the Malaysia one is an example of it happening. And in those cases, you have to ask, where the hell do they go? Is it just a different universe, but then there's multiple copies of themselves in that universe at the same time? That would be truly bizarre, and that universe would have questions that could not be answered. Okay, time for the quote of the day. The most wasted of all days is one without laughter. E. Cummings. I agree with this, and this is why I pretty much always watch at least one sitcom episode per day, just to get some humor infused into me, and it's great because even on a rewatch, I still enjoy the jokes and still laugh at them quite often, like in Friends. There's so many jokes I know exactly, word for word, intonation for intonation, timing, everything. I mean, I still couldn't pull it off as well as the actors do, but I know them well, could basically play them in my mind, and it's still funny, it never fails. I advise always having some humor in your life every day, even if it's jokes you know. Stand-up comedians, sitcoms, whatever it might be, get some humor in your life. Every single day. Just a bit will do.